our younger generations are losing their opportunities to be able to owning homes. And unfortunately, it's because they're so attracted to these luxury apartments because they look luxurious and they look very nice, but they don't really understand the finances of it.
Are you freaking out at the cost of living these days? Well, my guest today, Franco Perez, believes he has a solution. Forced to financially support his mom and his sister from a very young age, he's now helping middle-class families invest in property by building luxurious mobile homes that are not only affordable, but offer a high quality of living. He's working to remove the stigma from living in a mobile home park or trailer parks, as most of us know them as. His ultimate goal is to help as many people as possible invest in property so they can achieve the American dream. Franco also shares some great finance and budgeting tips that can help people who are working in the gig economy. Listen in to hear Franco's thoughts and whether he thinks the American dream is dead. I hope you enjoy this episode, and please like and subscribe for more great content. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Uncensored Direct Marketing. Today, I have Franco Perez, who is from the founder, I should say, of Franco Mobile Homes. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering what this has to do with direct response and what mobile homes have to do with anything in our industry. I'm going to have a very interesting conversation with Franco about, the freelancer life and the gig economy and people who are kind of working on their own, their struggles or things that they can do to get into the housing market. And also, if you're frustrated by the cost of living, if you're priced out of the housing market, Franco has some invaluable tips and a ton of experience on how people in younger generations or people just priced out of the market for whatever reason can actually, find their space and find their home. A couple of very interesting things about Franco is Franco was forced to financially support his mom and his sister at a very young age. So that's why, obviously, Franco, you took this road to help other people not have to struggle like that. And obviously, one of his main goals is to make housing affordable for Gen Z and millennials. And he really focuses on mobile homes and mobile home parks and kind of taking out the stigma that's attached to mobile homes, right? So Franco, I'm going to, thank you so much for joining us today. I did want to get started on that last point that I mentioned. There is a stigma if somebody lives, in a trailer park or in a mobile home, that this is not maybe somebody who's successful. This is not somebody that you want to be around, or they're poor or whatever the case is. So I'm really happy that you're here to kind of remove that stigma and to also explain to people how this is something that could be a first step into a bigger property or other financial goals that you have. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we do face a lot of stigmas. And that's, that kind of comes about to why we really started doing mobile homes in a while. And you were talking about how the stepping stones work. And I think I wanted to bring it up too, because to elaborate on my background, I kind of came from a very troubled situation where my dad left and I had to support my mom and younger sister. And during that time, it was the hardest time of my life because I had to figure out how to support my family and how to pay for housing. And I remember the pain every single month, because at the end of the month, I was gathering as much money as I could to try to pay for rent and to try to just make ends meet. I had to borrow money from friends. I had to sell things, whether it was recycling cans or anything like that, really just to survive. And I talk about that because after my life went on and I became to doing real estate stuff, I became good at doing real estate stuff. I really disliked the real estate industry after growing in it because it was a place that really just benefited the wealthy to be able to get wealthier. And that's kind of how I saw it. Agents, unfortunately, are incentivized to help the richest people they can help buy the most expensive homes that they can. And everyone's attracted to wanting to sell these mansions to wealthy people. And that's really a lot of people's dreams. But for me, in that time, I had this reflection of this is not me. I want to find a way to help people that were in my shoes, that were going through that pain that I was going through. And how can I make their life a little bit easier? What do I wish I would have known in those shoes? What what is something that would have helped me if I were in those shoes? Because today, as we're speaking, there's a family out there that is trying to make ends meet, that are good, very caring people that deserve to have a chance at building wealth, or deserve to have opportunity at home ownership. And with that being said, I came across several different asset classes. I tried doing affordable housing with the government and tried affordable housing development and really disliked it. But I came across mobile home parks, and come to find out, there are tons of mobile home parks throughout the country and throughout many metro areas. I'm in the Silicon Valley of San Jose, and there's a lot of mobile home parks here as well. And the way that these were built back then, they were really built for temporary housing. They were built for farmers, for people that just needed to work. But because they were built in the 60s, 70s, they really weren't optimized for like high density housing.
Okay.
But when you actually look at the nature of the economics of these, is that I live in an area where rent for a one-bedroom apartment is $3,000 a month, and buying a single-family home is $1.7 million a median price, right? And there's really, and this is contextual to your area, but usually that's kind of a similar ratio. But there's nothing in between. If you're paying consistently a monthly rent in that rat race, it's very difficult to even feel that the American dream of home ownership is possible. Because how can you come up with a down payment? How can you afford purchasing single family when it's such a crucial element to building wealth? So come to find out, mobile homes are the perfect in between because they're affordable. You're actually paying towards and paying down towards an asset. And it's a perfect entry level for people to get out of renting into home ownership and get to the benefits of it, like the tax write-offs, the mortgage, the loan buy down. But I say that because I feel like it can relate to a lot of your viewers, is because finding that problem and finding something you're passionate about fixing, and how can we find out what are these hidden gems that are not optimized and fix a problem that needs to be solved, right? And to your other question is these stigmas. The media portrays these mobile home parks as a very unquaint, ugly place to live, whether it's criminals or that sort of thing, and very, very low income people. But that's because that's all we get to relate to. Is what we see on TV. We have no excuse to go into these parks unless you know somebody that owns in these parks. But when you actually go into these communities, they're actually really nice places. So like I relate it to like apartments. You have really high-end apartments, but you have apartments that are in very bad areas that are unsafe, that you wouldn't want your kids running around. But there are also at the same level very nice communities in these very nice areas that shouldn't be overlooked, right? Sure. And the finances of it is something that we love educating people about, because whether it's career, whether it's owning your own business, a lot of us are trained to kind of just focus on career. But if we have a safety net of having an asset of a home that we own, that actually helps us feel more comfortable and be able to make better decisions in our business and our career as well. Right. But these are unfortunately things that the wealthy understand and have. And unfortunately, like back when I wasn't making a lot, I had no idea that my housing payment could make a big difference for my future and make more opportunities for me later. Right. So sorry if that was a long tangent.
No. I'm happy that you brought up all these things. And, there is a stigma, and there is this, like, if somebody is, let's call quote unquote poor or down in their luck financially or anything you want to say, there's, in a mobile home park, it's seen as people like that. Whereas it should be seen, and anywhere that you can find a place that you can call your own and make it your own, it should be seen as a stepping stone to something else. Like, even if, you buy that, then you sell it and get a small apartment and then take that. It's, I think a lot on social media and just in general, like society right now is seeing people go from 0 to 100 so quickly. I'm in my 40s. I didn't get here
automatically. You know what I mean? I started working at 13 years old. I came from an immigrant family. My family had, very little means. Well, actually, they were doing quite well at one point. My parents were immigrants. They were doing very well business-wise, and then they lost everything. And we almost lost our house. We almost, I had to get out of the school I was going to and all this. So I understand what hardship is. And I tried to work and get little steps at a time. It's just now a lot of people will see me at the stage that I am now, with my fancy car and my big house and all that, and be like, oh, look, it must be so easy for you. It's just, you have to keep in mind there's a history and you're going to get there slowly. And as I was telling you earlier, I had my first apartment was literally, I think it was like 480 square feet, maybe, which is big for some cities now. But where I'm from, it's tiny. But it was my own place, and it was nice to have somewhere to go home to. And that's where I started my business. Like you just mentioned, you feel safe and you can focus. So it was my own little place. I had my stuff in there, and I was able to then focus and start my business. And I literally started my business out of that little mini apartment. And it got me, 12, 13 years later, where I am today. So, I think it's very important what you're saying is that, we should take away the stigma and not, judge people because they're living in a mobile home. Like and I'm going to get to the question about the mobile homes, because I'm sure everybody listening is probably like, what do these homes look like? Where could I get one? What's happening? So, I mean, the interesting thing is, from what I gather is you can make these homes quite luxurious. They could have, some decent plumbing. They can have, a workspace and so forth. So, I'm going to have a couple of fold question here is, first of all, tell us a little bit about, what these homes look like, how they're built. And secondly, are they portable? Can we take them and say, I'm in New York one day and then I'm in California the next, and I'm taking my home with me?
Yeah. So, and I'm glad you asked that question. For context of the listeners, a lot of these older units are typically like 700 square feet or so,
Wow.
One bedroom, one bath. But these are the homes that and this is why we were kind of featured on Forbes, is we're replacing a lot of these old 700 square foot homes. We're removing those homes, and then we're building on average 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes in that same location. And these units, we really pride ourselves in really pushing the limits of what can be done in these parks, because you're right, we're facing these stigmas. And for me, I need to shock the world. And that's my mission, is to get attention towards these homes, because financially it's good. So we work really hard on making these as beautiful as could be. If you guys take a look at our YouTube channel, you'll see 12-foot high ceilings. We have waterfall, quartz, countertops, stainless steel appliances, very modern, contemporary looking cabinets. And a lot of these things are all brand new, right? Unfortunately, what we're up against is, and I talk about this a lot on our channel, is that our younger generations are losing their opportunities to be able to owning homes. And unfortunately, it's because they're so attracted to these luxury apartments because they look luxurious and they look very nice, but they don't really understand the finances of it. So it's part of my mission to really beautify these mobile homes, make them as beautiful as could be, so people can understand, and that can be an eye-opener for them to understand that they can probably pay that same amount of monthly amount and be able to afford something that they own as an asset, right?
Yeah.
And it's very shocking. When you look inside one of these homes, you won't be able to tell. And I mean this, we have our mobile homes that we build, and when you compare it to like a $1.6 million home in this area, the level of quality of how they're built are much better, and it's newer as well.
Wow.
So,
I mean, that's interesting. You're saying 1,500 and 700 square feet. And obviously I live in a fairly large city, and that's pretty big for a lot of cities. I mean, right now the units in most metropolitan areas, if you're lucky, a 1-bedroom is about 500 square feet. So that already is 700 is already good. And now you're saying you're doubling that and making it 1,500 square feet. So that's really interesting. And what I gather here is that these are more stable homes, right? It's not something that because we call them mobile homes, but it's not like you can take it and go somewhere else.
Yes, and they are classified as mobile homes, but we build them to be as permanent as could be,
Okay.
just to be able to allow for it to not technically be real estate at that time, but that allows for people to have a stepping stone and have this considered as affordable housing. What's really cool and what I love about the nature of mobile home parks too is that because they're under affordable housing, a lot of these homes they require it has to be resident owned, which means anyone buying these homes, they actually need it as their primary residence. So you're not competing on the market buying real estate. You're not competing with people buying their third or fourth rental. You're not competing against hedge funds that need more asset on their portfolio. Everyone buying these homes that we're building for is actually somebody that genuinely needs this to live in that area. Right? These are teachers, nurses, people that just want to get ahead and own their first piece of property, right? And unfortunately, a lot of these people that don't know about these, they're making huge sacrifices just to chase that American dream. For example, buying a home an hour and a half away, and and it feels good that they finally own a home, but then later realize that it's so much difficulty to travel an hour back and forth. It's a burden on their life when you can live in a metro area and still have a lot of those perks of ownership. Awesome. So and also the sacrifice of living in a not so great area with not great schools too, right? Yeah. So there's all a balance, and everyone's preferences are always going to be different.
Well, so let me ask you a little bit about the nature of, you talked about the mobile homes, and like, I want one because it sounds cool. But there's also like location. You're talking a lot about like locations and metropolitan areas and so forth. Like in a big city, like, you're in California. I mean, how close can you really get to the metropolitan area? Because I mean, land there is, nuts in terms of cost. So is it protected parks that are being kind of repurposed? Are you finding some good pieces of land? Like, are people living in desirable land pieces, or is it more kind of, would it be next to a highway or something that, maybe is unusable in terms of land?
Yeah. So basically, like, for example, in the Silicon Valley, the Santa Clara County, these parks are really hidden. The truth is, they really only have one entrance. You don't have a reason to drive past one or see it. Okay. But in our county, for example, there's actually 58 mobile home parks throughout that county, spread, whether it's near downtown, whether it's near the Google. We have one that's right across the street from the Google campus, one across from the brand new Samsung building. These are all in very prime locations for prime jobs, prime school systems, and that as well. And the same goes for our area in LA and our areas in San Diego, right? So these are in locations that are literally spread throughout different neighborhoods inside these cities. Okay. I would take the time to actually look on Google Maps or that sort of thing to see where they're around, because you'll be shocked. These were built in the 70s before these big cities were high density. So they're grandfathered in and like protected because they are affordable housing.
Oh, nice. So, I mean, you're obviously kind of focused in California. Could somebody say pretty much in any state that there would be some solutions for them to find? Do you have we can link it down below. We'll link down your YouTube channel as well. But is there any resource or something that you can share with us for people in different states that are looking for these types of solutions?
Yeah. Well, with our website, we have different locations and chats for people to help find it as well. Our real goal is to educate people about how this works. But okay. Yes, they do work in outside areas such as Austin right now. Like these numbers that I'm telling you of our cost in San Jose, in Texas, it could be like half that price, right? But okay. The same for them. Their income might be different. Their their alternative housing options might be different, and that's why the cost would be different as well. But it can work in the same element for them to be able to get that stepping stone of assets, right? Okay. But it is contextual to each area. Like okay. A lot of these, I'm a big person on economy, and if there's good jobs there, these are places where these mobile home parks do really well. But yes, it does work in certain areas, and mainly in the metro areas is where our product works best.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that, if there's jobs and so forth, that's obviously an interesting play in people looking for this, but, kind of moving towards like general advice and career advice, because you do have a wealth of information on this, and you can share and guide, some of our listeners. A lot of people, especially in my world, and I work, in direct response businesses, online businesses, I come across a lot of freelancers, whether they're doing copywriting, media buying, anything kind of in the freelance world. A lot of people who are working in the gig economy, these are people who are working sometimes on retainer. They're not really sure, what's happening next month and so forth. How does somebody, who's kind of uncertain of their revenue, like somehow, some way, and this happened to me also in early my career, I'd always find a way to pay my bills. I don't know why. I had kind of just random clients coming, and it was like, oh no, this one's going, what am I going to do? And then another one would come, and I'd keep working, but I always worried about it. And that's why I didn't get into the housing market until my 30s, because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay it. I don't want to have to go bankrupt or anything like that. So can you give people some advice on, how they can protect themselves, how they can make sure they can pay for this, and just some general advice, financial advice for our young listeners?
Yeah, I think one thing that I wish I knew during those times is really understanding where our money's going. I know a lot of people give advice on like budgeting and that sort of thing, but I think, career and business is one thing, but I think if we always have to look at where's our biggest expense, and in most cases, our biggest expense is housing, and what are the long-term benefits. And I know everyone's situation is different, but I think in the initial process, you start to only live for the now, live for paying for now, for a month ahead and 2 months ahead. But as soon as you start to look past that and further out, where can I take a little bit of pain to get future benefit? And I think for some people, purchasing a home is a pain point, but in the end, once you can shift from renting to owning something that you can leverage your loan towards, and you make that, how do you call that mental change and understanding of that, your same payment that you're paying for rent, and if you shift that to mobile home ownership, later down the line, we have a lot of use cases of people within 3, 4, or 5 years having an extra $70,000, $80,000 in an asset of wealth that they own because it's appreciated. It's actually the home that they own, and it's appreciated in value. Plus, that big portion of their housing payment is actually going towards an asset that they own too. Right. Yeah. And these are things that I never understood. And I feel unfair to me. And I feel like a lot of people are not taught this. But if I understood that sooner, I would have taken advantage of that sooner. Right. Yeah. And I feel like that's the first thing is realizing that when you rent, at the end of 5 years of paying that rent, you get nothing back. But if you pay towards something you own, you have a lot of benefits, and also tax benefits as well.
Okay. Yeah, let me dig into that a couple of things. So first, I mean, you mentioned that, it's an alternative to renting, which I can appreciate. But usually when you buy a home, you need to have a down payment. And that's a barrier to a lot of younger people and a lot of people who are having some financial difficulties. They don't have that down payment. So how would you do the same rules apply as a regular house, or can you get by with not having a down payment?
It's very similar to a residential home. However, the perk to this is that it's a lower barrier of entry, depending on the area that this viewer is listening from. But for example, in San Jose, if you wanted to put 10% down on a $1.6 million home, that's $160,000. Yeah. If you wanted to 10% down on a $300,000 mobile home, that's $30,000, right? Okay. And that's huge difference. And then also, it's a little bit more attainable. Not everyone might have it, but it's something that you can kind of really imagine of, if I change my budget a little bit for a year, I might be able to come up with that $30,000. Yeah. But if my barrier of entry in San Jose is going to be $160,000, forget it. I don't know that I'm willing to change my lifestyle to try for that, because it's not possible.
That's that 160,000, even, for most people is like that, even if you save 10,000 a year, that's 16 years. 30,000, for example, could be 3 years, which is a little bit long, but it's still not daunting, I think, in my opinion, when you're working towards a goal like that. So I agree. It's difficult.
And if you're in the Midwest or something like that, those numbers are drastically lower too. I'm just using that as a reference point for my area. But
Okay.
what I'm saying is 30, it could be 10 or $7,000 in not so expensive areas too.
Wow.
Right?
Okay, so
but
the price difference is like what? Let's say if you're in the Midwest versus in California, what are we looking at for that 1,500 square foot mobile home? Like just average prices.
so in San Jose, average newer homes are about 380,000 for a 1,500 square foot home, brand new. In like expensive areas of LA, we've built and sold homes at like $1.2 million, which is
Wow.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is that's cheap in that area. But then if we're talking like Midwest or like Arizona and stuff like that, we're talking about $130,000 for new homes.
Wow.
So, it all relates to the real estate in that area and
Okay.
and what people are paying for housing in that area.
Are you helping? Is your organization also helping with like, because a lot of people, especially, if it's your first home or it's your first foray in this, in getting somewhere to live, is you don't know anything about mortgages or how to get that or how to actually, what's the process? Like I for myself, the first time I had to get a mortgage, I was like, who do I call? Like, where am I going to compare prices? Who's going to give me the best price? How many prices do I have to compare? Do I need insurance? There's a lot of kind of other things that I feel that, if you've never been in, and I had a hard lesson in the housing market because I had some crazy disasters in my house and now I'm prepared for it when I move again or something like that. But somebody who's entering the market who needs a little bit of guidance is like, mortgages, insurance, all that kind of stuff. Do you guys help with that? Or do you have any best practices?
Absolutely, we help with that. And part of, and maybe this will relate to a lot of your clients too, is like a big part of our business is, my style is I love educating and I love doing that through YouTube, and YouTube helps us fight those stigmas too, because they can see things visually. But I love providing educational content on our channel of like, hey, how do you find the best insurance providers? How do you know what your home should be worth? How do you know the amount that you should be spending on a home? When should you shift from renting to owning? These are all things that I love mobile homes so much that we really hope to be a company that is easily reached out to, whether you're going to work with us or not, whether we're in your area or not. We have our chats to be able to answer as many questions as we can. And we love creating content to answer questions that we can too. Right. But yes, to answer that, they can always reach out to us, but they can also, like, whether it's in their area, look into how mobile homes work in their specific area too.
Okay. So, I mean, if we were to say, somebody comes to you and says, or whether it's you or another mobile home park, do they get a mortgage at their bank? Is that what they do? Or do you guys help finance it? Like, give me, let's say, a specific way that somebody's like, this is something of interest to me. I can afford this. I have this. What is my first step? How do I get in here and how do I get a mortgage?
Yeah, the first step really is to find an agent that specifically specializes in mobile homes.
Okay.
I think that's the best point of contact to get advice with, because they'll be able to tell you what you can afford, what you'll financially be able to qualify for, and they know the lenders in your area, because it's different per state. It's not like conventional loans, but every state does have their own different lenders that work in those states. It's a bit different, but in California, we have our loan company as well that helps with that.
Okay.
And yeah, but yes, talking with an agent, the agent normally has a bunch of contacts of who they work with as the lending side.
Okay. So what I'm getting is, you find kind of the mobile park home that you like, contact them, and they'll be able to kind of connect you to different networks of people, and at least to get you started and you could start investigating there.
Exactly that. Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, if we continue a little bit on the financing side and just kind of the numbers and so forth, there's obviously the cost of the home. Is this like a regular home again, like that you need to get insurance? And is there like kind of like I want to call them condo fees, but like kind of fees to maintain that? Like, what are some extra costs that you have to keep in mind other than your mortgage when you're getting into something like this?
Yeah, so like the breakdown for San Jose cost wise, like I mentioned to you earlier, is like the average rental for an apartment here is about 3,000 a month. If you were to get a home of about 350,000, for example, here, you'd put about 10% down, and your mortgage would be about $2,300, and then your space rent would be about $1,000. So coming from 3,000 a month to 3,200 a month, that is actually a beautiful thing for some people versus people trying to get out of renting and straight into home ownership, where their total payments end up actually being like 7,000 a month.
Okay.
Right. So there are insurances. What's great about these and why it's perfect for a lot of younger millennials too is that the cost isn't too high. The insurances aren't as costly. The maintenance aren't as costly. The taxes are not as costly as well.
Okay.
So it's really just a little bit more than what people are paying for renting.
But you get the word of the day would be equity. So even though you're paying, because I know some people listening will probably be like, well, if I'm spending 3,000 and now he's saying 3,200, that kind of doesn't make sense, right? But it does, because you are building equity, meaning after a couple of years, you might have, paid off 30, 40, $50,000 of that home. And then you can use that as equity into buying something else, another asset. Don't buy a car, buy another house, or buy something that appreciates, right? So that's the interesting thing. And now, obviously, you mentioned this is affordable housing. So I'm wondering, is there anything government wise that helps? Meaning, do you get a tax break, or do you get any type of benefit on the tax side of things from the government for owning one of these homes?
On the government side, not yet. There's a few things that are in the works, but you do get tax benefits on just the same as when you buy single family homes. You can write off that interest, which actually makes a big difference for a lot of people that does taxes on that. And then also you talked about equity. I think that's an important thing to talk about as well, because the way I see it is these homes, and don't get me started about buying cars. I hate when people buy expensive cars that they shouldn't afford. But you're using a loan towards an asset that's something that will appreciate and that will build value. And what was I getting with that? Is that, it seems costly to put a down payment towards a house, but keep in mind that is part of your equity. You put $30,000 towards your home, that's still your home. And when you sell that later, that $30,000 is still yours, right? So it's kind of a forced automatic savings account, right? You're actually investing your money to hedge less of what you're paying towards your rental landlord to shifting to something where you own an asset, that mobile home, instead, and minimizing that amount that you're paying of the rent to the landlord. Right.
Yeah, and we are focusing, on younger people, but I do also have to kind of mention, there are some people that are older in their 40s or 50s and are also having financial hardships, and this is also a solution for them. And as you get closer to retirement, whether you're 20 or you're 30 or 40, whatever the case is, you're going to retire one day. You don't want to work the rest of your life. You don't have to. I mean, some people, I probably will. I might be an exception, but like having that daily grind every day, you may not want to do that. And if you do not invest in your own home, I'll give an example of my parents. My parents had some financial hardships when they were in their 60s. Which is a very late time to have a financial hardship, right? You're almost set to retire. Now you're 60 years old and you're like, well, what happens? What do I do? So the one thing that did save my parents is the home ownership. They were able to take money, equity out of their home that they had been paying for 15, 20 years. They hadn't paid it off, but they were still able to take some money in order to, pay their living expenses and then spread it over another 10 years to give themselves some time to pay it off. So, obviously you're paying interest and stuff like that. It's not that you want to do that, but it's an option when your hands are tied and you're like, what do I do? Right. If you're renting, you're just out. that's it, you're done, right? So even for older people that, are seeking some retirement, this is, to me, it's a great solution, especially if you want to live in a metro area and you want to make it affordable. So, I love this idea, and I'm so happy that you came on and talked about it. I'm going to ask you some very dreamer questions now, because I'm curious to see your thoughts on this. So this is very direct question, and I'm hoping you're going to give me a straight answer. Is the American dream dead?
Ouch, man. I feel like it's slowly dying. I honestly see that. And I see the shift of wealth. And that's why I left the regular real estate industry, is because I'm seeing real estate start to really only benefit the wealthy, and that's where I see this all going. I really wanted to build a business that would help bring that back the right way, bring that back to the teachers, the hardworking people, the immigrants that just want an opportunity, right? Yeah. I come from an immigrant family too, and have a lot of friends that are that way as well. Unfortunately, in a lot of these expensive areas, it's close to dead, but these homes, like you said, for your parents or whatever, these are the financial safety net for people, and it does help people have that opportunity to take that step ahead. It's not dead, but it's
we're giving it CPR. We're giving the American dream CPR so they can come back up. I mean, I don't want to be a negative, in a negative mindset, because I think there's always opportunity. I still think that we are the luckiest generation in terms of, starting a business is, when I hear people saying, oh, starting a business is very difficult. It was difficult. Like when my parents started a business, that was difficult. Like going to the city and getting permits. That was nuts. It was absolutely madness. I opened my computer. I incorporated in about 24 hours and I'm like, good to go. Let's go. Got a bank account. I'm ready. I'm ready to start my business. So, we have to also think of the glass as half full, is that there's a lot of things that technology has created for us that makes life and owning a business and kind of being the master of your destiny a lot easier now than it was. Anybody who has a debate with me, please write some comments below, send me some emails, and let me know why you think I'm wrong, because I think it's the best time to start a business is right now. There has never been a better time to start a business. Even though competition is fierce, you can find your voice. You can be a little bit different. You can do gigs. You can do all kinds of stuff, right? Like you can be a freelancer, start a small business or anything like that. And I will say that I don't think the American dream is dead. I think, like I said, we're giving it CPR, and I think younger generations are now starting to find awesome solutions like the one that you propose, and just different ways of living. And I know a lot of people who are leaving the big metropolitan areas and they're going to lesser expensive areas, and they're living very nice lives, living, in countrysides and beautiful areas, and enjoying their way of life. So, hopefully, it might reinvigorate some older areas that can use some young people and can, like, for example, my parents are from Greece. And in Greece, in the small villages, everybody kind of went to the big cities and so forth. In the small villages, the homes are being sold, and Italy is the same thing. Spain is the same thing. They will sell you a house for $1.
Wow.
So because they just want you to live there. They just want you to live there because you're going to spend money. You're going to go to the restaurants. You're going to buy things, and they just want to reinvigorate. And some of these homes are not in great shape, but still it gives you, again, something that you own that you can fix up a little bit and, move on. So, and I'm talking just about in Europe, but there's opportunities like that in the US as well, of course. I'm curious, in terms of owning your own home, like an actual kind of physical home, not mobile home, how many people have you seen go from this type of solution to actually successfully owning a home? Can you give me like a fun story or something, somebody that kind of crossed that barrier?
Oh, totally. We so many times. And one specific one was really the first home that we built for someone. Her name's Hazel. She's a nurse in our area, and her partner was like a teacher. But basically, they were renting in Daly City, which is an area near us, and they wanted to buy a single family home, but really couldn't. It was very difficult for them. So we built them. This was actually the first home we ever built. It was exactly as I explained, 1,500 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And then from that point, right after 3 years, within 3 years, this was a time where housing was going up a lot. They bought it at 300,000 and they were able to sell it for 370,000, right? And just by switching that, their payment from renting to mobile home ownership was actually break even, from 3,000 a month to 3,000 a month exactly. And just from shifting to that, they had an extra $90,000, 70 from equity and more from tax write-offs, and then also more from the loan that they paid down. And then they used that 90,000 plus what they worked on saving from their career to finally be able to buying something of single family home in an expensive area. Right. And we're seeing, and that's what really got me hooked at bringing energy. And, you know, to me, after seeing that success makes me want to do more of those and more of those, of these people that don't have opportunity. And if they have a little bit of guidance, will have opportunity. Right. And after having that one case happen, I wanted to teach more people on our team to be able to create more and more beautiful cases just like that. And time again, to this day, I still tear up when I go to these closing celebrations of our agents selling them their homes. And I tear up because they're so in joy of finally owning this first piece of home. And it's so fulfilling. I look back at when I was an agent, you know, helping a wealthy person get a rental. It's just like, okay, cool. Are you going to give me a gift? Yeah. But man, here it's like, they're so grateful. They're like, Franco, no agent was willing to work with us. And I'm so grateful that you took the time to help us. And we never thought we'd be able to own anything. And that to me is so much more fulfilling than the financial benefit of it. No commission, no profit will ever replace that for me. And being able to build something that will continue to create stories like that, to me, is the most successful thing. People always, I find a lot of people really chase, how can I make the most money of this and that? But I honestly feel like there should be another breed of entrepreneurs that just want to help people. And how can we build a system, an ecosystem that will automatically help more people get ahead? Yeah. And that's been my dream of why. And that's been my reason why I wake up early and why I work so late at night.
Well, I mean, I commend you and I love your integrity. And I think, you know, integrity is a very important thing for a business owner. So it's important to work with people that have integrity and have a goal. I'm gonna take something you said and take it a step further, is that, you know, and I do this in my business every day. I give a lot of free advice. I like to educate people. I want to tell them, you know, what the best solution is for their business and how they can fix certain problems. And even if it's not my service and it's something else that could work better for them, I just like to tell them this because, you know, if you do good and if you help people the right way, it will always come back to you, right? So, you know, I am not afraid to say, for you, for example, if you become very wealthy through this business, this is a good thing. We need to celebrate people who are doing good things and becoming wealthy because of that, right? So, you know, vilifying people who are making money by owning great businesses and helping people is backwards to me. Like you shouldn't just be poor because you want to help you know, people who are not who are down on their luck. Like, you're charging a fair price for a service that you're offering, and it's great, and you can scale and you can make money. Like, that's helping everybody. That shouldn't be vilified. I don't like the vilification of you know, successful individuals maybe that make a lot of money. Like, obviously there are some bad ones, of course, but you know, if you're genuinely doing, you know, what you love to do and you're trying to help people and you're accomplishing your goal and you're making money off that and good money off that, awesome. It's like that's capitalism at its best, right? Like, that's what we're out here to do as entrepreneurs and so forth. So I have one last question for you, Franco, because you have, you know, I love your vibe and I love how you know, you want to help people. We're going to put some links, guys, down below, you know, where you can reach out to Franco, his YouTube channel, his website, and so forth, to get more information. Because I know this was a little bit brief, but I'm looking for a specific thing. Like, if you're, you know, kind of starting out your career, or, you know, I would like to say in your 20s is kind of where you're finding yourself and so forth. If you're in your 20s, what is one kind of budgeting tip or something that somebody can do that can help them kind of better manage their money or better manage their financial situation? I know we don't learn a lot about these things in school and stuff like that. So give us like one or two tips that you usually give to people in this situation that can really help them.
There's a ton of apps and platforms out there, and I think we tend to overlook and see where our money goes. And I think I'm not the greatest at this, but I think once you start to track where your money goes, anything you track improves. And that, I heard that somewhere. And, there's apps like mint.com where you can just connect it to your card and you can actually see month by month, where is my money going? Because it's hard to realize when you have a certain group of friends or family and you're doing these things, you don't know if your money is going towards eating out too much, whether it's going towards your housing. But the first thing is analyzing where a lot of your money is going and taking each big item from the biggest to the smallest. Is if it's housing, can I improve that a little bit? How can I improve that a little bit? Is it eating out to eat? Can I minimize that a little bit so I can save more, right? And understanding what shifts and habits that you have to change to build that financial freedom or safety net is the first step. And I'm big on understanding that first step and realizing that first. And to me, that's kind of what helped me, because I think a lot of people like me back then would just live day by day. We'll survive every day. We'll survive every month, pay the bills. And then, okay, I just happen to have $1,000 in the account. I don't know why. And then I don't actually analyze back and track where that money went. Yeah. But I think that's a big first step. And then the other is analyzing where you could be putting your money to improve it.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I'll give my what I did when I was younger that I think was pretty helpful is I paid myself 10% off every paycheck, whatever money I made, whether it was like from doing a gig or a job or something like that, I would take 10%. And it's easy. Like you said, there's a lot of tools, like most banks have, ways that, as soon as the money comes in, they just take the 10%. So you don't even see it. It's just gone. Well, see you later. So you put it in a separate account, and then you can start small investing, meaning you put the money in an ETF, and you just let it ride for as long as it rides and so forth. And you have a goal of like in 5 years from now, down payment to something or something like that. You won't notice it if it's immediately taken out. And to this day, I still do that. And it's my way of investing. It's my way of kind of paying myself first. So I guess that's my tip. In addition to Franco's awesome tip of, learning where your money goes. Like we all don't know, right? Like sometimes I get my credit card statement. I'm like, what did I buy on Amazon? Like, why is there 20 charges here? So, knowing where your money goes and paying yourself first, I think are very good tips for people getting started in their financial future. And also, home ownership and so forth. So thank you, Franco. This was a lot different in terms of episode that we usually do, guys. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think about, Franco's initiative. Reach out to Franco as well. We're going to put his contact information below. I'm going to end it with, people like Franco are making sure that the American dream comes back and it comes back with a vengeance. So I'm excited to see young entrepreneurs like you taking these awesome initiatives. And thank you so much for your time, Franco.
Thank you for having me. Really love what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great day. Hope you found today's session valuable. If you have any questions for me or just want to connect, please feel free to visit my website, mariasparagus.com. That's mariasparagus.com. I'd love to hear what you're working on, so drop me a line on any hot button issues your business is experiencing. And remember, don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once.